Well, the freeway's really clear. You might think it's a holiday as you're driving into work. The bike lane, gosh, nobody's on it. Hey, a lot of you have been sent home to work from home, and you may never have done that before. Well, stay tuned to the end because I'm going to tell you how there may be a silver lining to this and a way you can capitalize on it. But here you are, having to work from home, and I'm going to tell you some helpful tips. This is G.H. Glade for Coaching ADD and the Stimulus-Driven Brain. One of the first things to think about as you're working from home is to set up your workspace. I think of it as my command center from home, and I am thinking we're all going to be at home for a while with the whole issue of the coronavirus. It's things like having a comfortable chair and desk. I have a video, and I'll put the link at home on Workspace Design. And I'm going to suggest you go to that one to take a look and think about the space that you're working in. I'm a believer in treating working from home like you were at a job site. I'm suggesting that you have some demarcation points for both the beginning and the end of work. Work regular hours. Figure I'm going to be at my desk at 8 o'clock. And don't come down in your fuzzy bunny slippers and your comfy, bathrobe. That doesn't get you in the right mindset to really put it all into work. It's interesting how we dress has an impact on that internal environment. One of the tips I give my students that will actually improve their test scores, and that's empirically shown to do so, is to dress for success when they're going in to take a test. It creates that internal environment just as you will when you dress for success or dress in the way you'd normally come to work. It makes a difference. But start by planning on working a regular set of hours. Start every day at the same time. Have a time where you end your day. And that's the big dilemma for a lot of people because they will tend to work more hours from home than they normally would. I have one client who has a ritual at the end of the day. She takes a shower and she changes her clothes again. And that's her demarcation point. That says, hey, I am done with this. We have a dilemma when couples are both working from home. And this is complicated if you have children because all the schools are now shut down and kids are home. If at all possible, have a separate space for each of you. I feel like the one who is kind of the loudest, i.e. has to be on the phone and having conversations with clients. If somebody sort of talks out loud as part of their process or is otherwise noisy, they should be probably the one that gets the door for their sake and for your sake to shut out that noise. Children at home is now an issue for every working parent. We don't have resources to keep them entertained. And so a parent often has to be riding herd on the kids. And this may be a factor of setting a schedule where you and your significant other trade off on time. Get the kids out of the house, run them out, burn off some of that energy, and give your partner some quiet time to work. I also will put in a link on getting started. Sometimes when you're working from home, it's hard to get off the blocks. This also has a strategy where you can do parallel sorts of things like clean up the house and whatnot. It also brings in an important factor in working from home. You have to take breaks. It's the same issue as if you were on an airline. Well, you have to get up and walk. You don't want blood clots forming. It also helps sort of reset your mind to go ahead and take a break. And this process that I'll link in the show notes gives you a strategy where you can do things like get your house clean, get your chores done, all while taking these breaks and being really productive at work. Part of that taking breaks is taking a lunchtime. a full hour if that's what you take at work. And that's an excellent opportunity to get out of the house, take a walk, get some fresh air. It will help clear your mind and make you more productive when you return. I often, while here at the office or at home, will take 10 or 15 minutes to meditate. It resets my brain and is a really good adjunct to really working well from home as well. Ask your company for what you need to work effectively from home. If you don't have a decent monitor already or the equipment that you need to do your job, then ask for them to come up with the budget to make sure you have those needed tools. You know, most of us have decent computers, but some of you might not. It also extends to other tools. If you're expected to be on the phone, ask your company for a separate work phone. You want to be able to cull work-oriented calls from calls you may generally use your cell phone for. That way you can put your regular phone away when you're working and not be distracted by calls, and know that any call coming in on that extra line is a work-related call. That's a really good idea to manage flow and reduce distraction. My home is my home. My office is my office. I have an office in my home. And the interesting thing from a tax perspective, if you own your own business, you can actually take a deduction for a business workspace. And that also includes that percentage of your home's overall space for all your utilities, all your property taxes. And that's a special group of people who are working on their own but working from home. If you aren't aware of the tax break, that's certainly something to be recognized. But that being said, I like a real boundary between my work and my house, my life. And I only do my work in my home office. I really keep that separate. I don't bring the computer out on my lap to answer emails or faxes or, refill meds. That all takes place in my home office. I really separate the two because I want that demarcation point, not only for space where it's quiet and I can focus, but to have that boundary in my head that my time off is my time off. I'm not going to be looking at my computer while trying to have social time or be with other people. I want to be fully present in the moment, be it if I'm at work and doing work tasks or if I'm at home. Working from home can be really isolated, and that's a real problem. Some people, that really works for them because they're inherently introverts and they're kind of worn out from all the social contact. But for most of us, it is really, really isolated. And what I suggest there are a couple of things for this. First of all, connect with your other employees and use a video link. Zoom, for example, has a free video link. It's a really solid platform. It's a good way to connect with your other employees if you have questions. It's a lot more personable. I am connecting with my clients these days via telemed. You don't need a fancy system for this if you don't have to have secure communication like I do. Get the Zoom free one. Encourage your friends to get that. That lets you reach out and touch someone. There's also more common things like FaceTime if you have an iPhone in all sorts of ways. But if you're just talking on the phone, believe me, it brings another level of depth to the communication if you reach out and connect people in a video format. The other thing is to over-communicate in your written stuff. There's a saying that it's like 7%, 30%, and 62%. 7% is the meaning we have in the words that we say. Very little, actually. That other 30-some% is inflection. And the last part is body language. The most important aspect in our subtle nonverbal communication is body language. And we lose all of that if we have written communication. And it's also diminished when we have communication via a telelink. You know, you can pick up on my intonation for sure, but you can't generally see all of my body language. And so for that reason, it's really important to over-communicate in particularly written messages. People will think that, okay, you know, I really need to ask questions and whatnot. And if you have that sort of communication, tell them ways they can then communicate with you via video link. It's a lot more first person. It's a lot more here and now. But if you're just relying on written communication, it really pays to over-communicate. You know, some years ago, there was a fellow by the name of Tim Ferriss. He wrote a book called The 4-Hour Workweek. It was a fantastic book, bestseller. But one of the things he advocated was working from home. You know, sooner or later, we'll get the whole coronavirus under control. It will go away like every other, you know, sort of illness like this. And life will slowly creep back to normal. But the silver lining is working from home is great. And it's nice to have a balance, but that time where you can focus is really wonderful. His book gave ways to sell it to your employer. And, you know, having a blend of time in the office and time in the home working is really pretty nice to have. So here's the real secret in this whole thing. Keep track of your metrics on productivity. When all this comes to an end and we slowly go back to our offices and you decide, yeah, working from home was pretty good, having metrics to show people that, gee, I was more productive really opens the door to, you know, being able to do it more often or doing it a few days a week. That's often something I have people negotiate in their job contracts as I get to work from home a couple of days. The advantages are going to be fantastic, and I think it's going to change the face of business. Business is going to make a transition from that attitude that, oh gosh, we don't want our employees sloughing off and, you know, watching Netflix while they're at home when they should be working. And a percentage of people will do that. Most of us are not going to. And they're going to let go of that grip of having to monitor their workforce. So keep track of your metrics. Hey, this is G.H. Glade for Coaching the Stimulus-Driven Brain. I would bet you know coworkers who are working from home and having the same struggles as you are. So what I'd like to suggest and invite you to do is send this link to some of your coworkers. You know, my platform is oriented to ADD coaching, but this is coaching everyone can use. And I put it out there as a free resource. If you like this presentation, go down below and give it a like. If you want to see more of this, hit subscribe. The subscribe button is right there. Until next time, this is G.H. Glade for Coaching ADD and the Stimulus-Driven Brain.